Pentagon, where this morning Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth and top generals delivered a briefing on the strikes against Iran, combating recent leaks of classified information that were attempting to mislead the public and undermine the president's mission in the Middle East. Here's Defense Secretary Hegseth separating fact from fiction. Watch.
There are so many aspects of what our brave men and women did that, because of the hatred of this press corps, are undermined because people are trying to leak and spin that it wasn't successful. It's irresponsible. And folks in this room are privy to that information because of the proximity here in the Pentagon. It's an important responsibility. And time again, classified information is leaked or peddled for political purposes to try to make the president look bad. And what's really happening is you're undermining the success of incredible B-2 pilots and incredible F-35 pilots and incredible refuelers and incredible air defenders who accomplished their mission, set back a nuclear program in ways that other presidents would have dreamed. How about we celebrate that? How about we talk about how special America is, that only we have these capabilities? I think it's too much to ask, unfortunately, for the fake news. So we're used to that. But we also have an opportunity to stand at the podium and read the truth of what's really happening. And the reality is, you want to call it destroyed, you want to call it defeated, you want to call it obliterated, choose your word. This was an historically successful attack, and we should celebrate it as Americans. And it gives us a chance to have peace, chance to have a deal, and an opportunity to prevent a nuclear Iran, which is something President Trump talked about for 20 years, and no other presidents had the courage to actually do.
And moments later, General Dan Raisin Kane went into further detail on the incredible success of the mission and the heroism of our brave service members. Watch.
When the crews went to work on Friday, they kissed their loved ones goodbye, not knowing when or if they'd be home. Late on Saturday night, their families became aware of what was happening. And on Sunday, when those jets returned from Whiteman, their families were there. Flags flying and tears flowing. I have chills literally talking about this. The jets rejoined into a formation of 4 airplanes followed by a formation of 3 and came up overhead Whiteman proudly in the traffic pattern, pitching out to land right over the base and landing to the incredible cheers of their families who sacrifice and serve right alongside their family members. Like I said, there were a lot of flags and a lot of tears. One commander told me this is a moment in the lives of our families that they will never forget. That, my friends, is what America's Joint Force does. We think, we develop, we train, we rehearse, we test, we evaluate every single day. And when the call comes to deliver, we do so. I could not be more proud standing up here today of our Joint Force. I'm filled with gratitude that I get to tell their story. And as we stand here right now, our forces remain on a high state of readiness in the region, prepared to defend themselves. And one last thing, our adversaries around the world should know that there are other DTRA team members out there studying targets for the same amount of time, and will continue to do so.
And meanwhile, President Trump is at the NATO summit in Europe this week, where the NATO Secretary General apparently referred to him as Daddy. And when the president was asked about it by a Sky News reporter, well, here's how he responded. Take a look.
Go ahead, give my mic. Hello.
Deborah Haynes from Sky News.
Good.
Mark Rutte, the NATO chief, who is your friend, he called you Daddy earlier. Do you regard your NATO allies as kind of children?
No, he likes me. I think he likes me. If he doesn't, I'll let you know. I'll come back and I'll hit him hard, okay? No? He did it very affectionate. Daddy, you're my daddy.
Do you regard your...
And in classic Trump fashion, the White House then released this video to the tune of Usher's Hey Daddy. I know, you just can't make it up. Watch this. meanwhile, here at home, the FBI is continuing to uncover more and more corruption under previous leadership, including evidence that the agency shut down an investigation that shows that former Director Wray buried intelligence reports that China interfered in the 2020 presidential election. The evidence details how the FBI recalled an intelligence report solely because it contradicted Wray's claims under oath to Congress that China was not conducting a foreign influence campaign in the 2020 election. Just another example of how previous administrations went out of their way to undermine President Trump and put our national security at risk. But Democrats, they appear eager. What do every time? They double down on the same destructive agenda that got them to this point. And we are seeing it in the city of New York, where the winner of this week's mayoral primary ran on the platform of defunding the police, ending cash bail, and open borders. But borders are, Tom Homan has a message for Zohran Mamdani and anything else trying to stand in the way of ICE. Watch.
Candidate. He hasn't won yet, but he won the Democratic primary, Zohran Mamdani. So he's saying, I mean, this is incredible. He's vowed to kick the, quote, fascist ICE out of New York City, okay? So how do you intend to deal with that? Because I would guess there are going to be a lot of criminals and Iranian cells and whatnot in New York City. The job's not done there. What do you say to this guy?
Good luck with that. Federal law trumps him every day, every hour, every minute. We're going to be in New York City. Matter of fact, because it's a sanctuary city, President Trump made it clear a week and a half ago. We're going to double down and triple down on sanctuary cities. If we can't arrest a bad guy in a county jail, one agent arresting one bad guy, they release him in the streets like New York does every day. We got to send a whole team to look for this guy. And not only that, we're going to send additional teams to look for all the people they arrest. We're going to concentrate in sanctuary cities because we know they're releasing public safety threats and national security threats back to the street. So we know we got a problem there. So we don't have that problem in Florida where most sheriffs work for us. So we're going to double up and triple up on New York. And not only are we going to send more agents to the neighborhood, we're going to increase worksite enforcement tenfold. If we can't arrest them in the jail, you're going to force them in the neighborhood, then we'll find them in the neighborhood. If we can't find them in the neighborhood, we'll find them at the worksite. So game on. We're coming.
And also be sure to check out the 1775 Coffee Company. We talk about it all the time. Do not compromise on taste, quality, or your values. 1775 Coffee is brewed to perfection. It is crafted with precision and built on patriotism. The farm-to-cup process means there is quality, there is authenticity, and sustainability from start to finish. All the beans are ethically and exclusively single-sourced. So try 1775 Coffee today. Go to 1775coffee.com/KG for 15% off your first order. And joining me now, former FBI special agent with over 25 years of investigative experience. He is the president of JJN and Associates, Chris Hinkle. Thank you so much for being here. It's quite an honor.
Thank you for having me on. Appreciate the time.
All right. Well, obviously there is a lot happening in the world, but first off, I'd like to discuss, the FBI and ICE are reportedly ramping up efforts to dismantle Hezbollah cells inside the U.S. as we speak, making dozens of arrests just in the past few days. As a special agent, talk about the task at hand and how to effectively root out these cells that are inside our own borders, quite frankly, because it's everybody's biggest fear.
Yeah, I've got a little bit of experience with that. When I came down to Jackson as a field desk supervisor, as a supervisory special agent, one of the programs we had, we did a lot of work with ICE. I want to dispel what appears to be some reporting out there that the FBI is shifting its resources back to counterterrorism. It dovetails with the work that they're doing with ICE. The opportunity to go out and affect these deportations, identify individuals that don't need to be here, and getting them out, you collect valuable intelligence. And a lot of intelligence is what led to the recent successes of identifying those 11 individuals that were ties to Iranian terror cells.
Well, we've heard a lot of discussion about this, on the news, everyday conversations with people. I will tell you this, in light of everything that has transpired with Israel and Iran and the threats, and yes, there's a ceasefire. Nevertheless, that doesn't mean there aren't sleeper cells that could be activated, et cetera, in some kind of retaliation against the United States or U.S. allies.
Yeah, it's probably not as movie centric as that, where you have keywords that are out there that activate these individuals. My biggest concerns are more with the radicalization of individuals here in the United States, with the homegrown radicals, and these individuals helping facilitate that. Yeah, they could go out and cause some damage and some concern and nervousness and fear individually. But the two areas that I look at are the homegrown radicals, the ones that you're seeing on the campuses causing damage, protesting in support of Palestine, Hamas, Iran. That coupled with the potential cyber attacks that can happen out there, it's a lot more technical now than it was on 9/11 when I responded to the Pentagon up in DC as a young FBI agent. We were able to do a lot of things to identify the 19 hijackers, actually identified them pretty quick. Here, it's going to be a little more nuanced. I don't think you're going to see Iran just giving the signal of, okay, here's this keyword, go out, put your groups together and go do things. I think you're going to have some of those individuals likely, if they're going to do something, they're going to take it onto their own initiative. But the bigger fear that I have is the cultivating of those that would sympathize with them and take actions on their behalf. And we're seeing that in these protests, especially on the campuses.
You know, more broadly, I'd love for people, because you have a fascinating background, to kind of just, you know, introduce yourself on a broad scope, you know, to our audience. And also, you know, your firm, what you guys do and specialize in that's, you know, relevant to all of your past experience.
Well, I did start an investigative services business. It's not your typical PI business. I do a lot of work with law firms, bringing some of the expertise I had in the FBI. So I'm very selective in the clients that I have, and I keep those confidential. As far as it dovetailing into what we see in the FBI, it's just a lot of the techniques and the training and experience that I've had in conducting interviews, knowing how processes work in courtrooms, how to get the documentation that they need, how to locate individuals. One of the biggest fortes that I have is actually finding somebody. One of the first clients I had when I retired in 2019 was looking for an individual that they tried for 6 months trying to find these two individuals. As a matter of fact, they gave me the basic information. About an hour and a half, I called them back and said, "All right, well, I found both of them. I have interviews secured for Monday. Do you want me to go up and talk to them?" They were a bit surprised at how fast I was able to find them. Wow. But it's a valuable experience that I've had, because I spent 25 years, 20 plus with the FBI, 5 years as an Air Force Office of Special Investigations agent, looking for people that didn't want to be found and knew how to keep from being found. Wow. So people that don't know I'm looking for them, they're kind of surprised when I walk up to them in the restaurant and tap them on the shoulder.
That's kind of cool. I'd film that. That sounds like Netflix. I love it. They're like, you're like, hello. And you're like, ah. Also, you know, just given all your, you know, depth and breadth of experience, where do you feel that we stand as a country, where America stands from a security standpoint under this new administration? How big of a shift, if you believe there has been, is there? Are you witnessing it? Is there more, you know, to see?
Well, there's definitely been a shift. I'm in contact with people around Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, and I'm pleased at some of the things that they're doing. Their partnerships with state and local law enforcement, the opportunity to get out there and be transparent with the citizens. I always believe in transparency. That was something we did not see from Director Wray and Director Comey. When they would testify before Congress, they tended to obfuscate information that they needed to provide, that they're responsible for providing constitutionally to oversight to the Article 1 branch. And it used to frustrate me when I would hear Chris Wray say things like, well, I can't talk about that. It's an ongoing investigation, or I'm not going to tell you this information. There's nothing that the FBI does, and I can tell you from my 20 plus years, that can't be discussed with our representatives. That's the way the Constitution is set up. They need to respond to oversight. Kash has been amazing at doing that here lately. He's provided some background, some transparency of things that were held in abeyance before. We just saw the information about voter suppression, about their contacts with online media companies. He's going to share that information. I was really pleased at how the local offices, FBI offices, are responding. We had the terrorist event out in Denver, Colorado, and the special agent in charge there was immediately out speaking with the citizens, the media, answering questions, did a follow-up press conference, and then tasked his media people to keep providing updates. That's just something we didn't see before, so I'm really pleased with that. Secondly, I like the way that they're going about figuring out who is who inside the FBI. I think it's a misinformation for the citizens to think that the FBI is top to bottom full of just corrupt individuals. And you've got some people out there trying to grift off this, of painting this picture that the majority of FBI agents are corrupt based on what they saw from January 6th and the investigations that followed that. But I can tell you from my experience, the overwhelming majority are good constitutional citizens inside the FBI that do the job.
Yeah.
We just had some bad management, some individuals that I actually think violated the Constitution. If it was me, I would take the time to charge Chris Wray and Jim Comey with violations of the Constitution. And that dovetails back to Robert Mueller. I've had in-depth conversations with all three of those directors, and I can tell you, they're some of the worst that I've ever been in the room with. Didn't care for Mueller. I thought he was too hard-headed in the things that he wanted to do that didn't fit inside the FBI. Jim Comey, I had an uneasy feeling about him from the first time I met him. Chris Wray, I thought was an empty suit and just allowed things to continue.
Kind of sad. I think that's a very accurate assessment. You should review movies as well. One to watch, one not to watch, Rotten Tomatoes. Sure. I'm dead serious, because that's really, it sums it up. And I take all this stuff very seriously because I'm a former prosecutor, and I really cannot abide by what I saw, the weaponization of government, the lawfare, against the president and against other hardworking Americans. And so it's been really interesting to see, as you've pointed out, the shift and the transformation within the agency, which, by the way, was always revered, and they're the white hats, and looked up to all of the above. I was recruited by the FBI. I came this close, and then I decided to take a top job as at the DA's office as a prosecutor. But I can only imagine what my experience would have been. But I think it's on the right track now, which I'm excited about. And I want to talk about Kash Patel. And Bonjean are two very close friends of mine, men that I admire. Kash this week is sending over more documents. Okay, speaking of accountability and following through on violations of the Constitution, Chairman Grassley is going to receive these about recalled intelligence relating to China's 2020 election interference plot. The revelations suggest that Chris Wray was not truthful when he told Congress in late 2020 that he wasn't aware of any such plots on the Bureau's radar. What is your reaction to that, and what do you believe?
Well, as I said, I wasn't a fan of the way that Chris Wray testified in Congress of trying to obfuscate the information that he had. He needs to provide that as far as oversight. If there's the concern that individuals inside Congress are going to leak that information, then have the leak investigations, but have some teeth in them. I've been a staunch advocate of, well, it's the thing that you swear the oath to do, which is to protect and defend the Constitution. And the Constitution protects its citizens from government. And it's incumbent upon our individuals in government, whether they be in the executive branch, judicial branch, or legislative branch, to honor that oath. So a lot of what I've been doing since I've been unencumbered by the Hatch Act since retirement is going out and speaking on behalf of citizen civil rights. I do believe that a large number of individuals, had their civil rights violated on January 6th. And that needs to be reconciled. I do hope that gets taken care of. I hope that the people will be patient with that. It takes a little while to build a case. There was a lot of malfeasance that was going on in executive management inside the FBI for well over 15 years. And it's going to take a little more than 6 months to fix that. The thing that I advocate most, I ran the civil rights program when I came down from FBI headquarters in 2006 here in Mississippi. Had some amazing successes, amazing cases. It was my squad that reopened Mississippi burning. We ended up putting a couple of Klansmen into prison for the murders of some of the civil rights people back in the 1960s. We actually brought back one of the original case agents a man named Jim Ingram. He has since passed, but Jim actually worked the original Mississippi burning case, and we brought him back to work with us on that. Wow. So one of the things that I advocate for people to do is exercise that First Amendment right that almost no one remembers that they have, which is petition and seek redress of grievances with your government officials. Ask your representatives questions. What are you doing? What are you not doing? What have you not been doing? And you're going to see a lot of your representatives engaging in parroting our concerns in the media, holding hearings that's nothing but a bunch of theater, and there's not going to be any substance. And you're going to see as we go into this election year, a lot of them are going to embrace themselves, cloak themselves in the successes that Donald Trump's had and try to equate their position in Congress with that. I just always ask the question, what'd you do the 4 years that he wasn't in there? So the accountability has to be not just with the FBI, but with the representatives that also hold the FBI accountable for the actions that they've done.
Can you kind of take us inside? And I found that discussion about the Mississippi burning case very cool. And I love that you brought somebody back with the institutional knowledge about it. That's a very good move. Sometimes people want to do that. You know, they make it about themselves instead about what you should be, focusing on, which is the investigation and whatever tools you can implement to get to the bottom of it. But when you're doing conducting an investigation as a special agent, kind of what is the process? Like, how do you first receive a case? Then how does it get, a team put together, et cetera, and what should be the FBI, the Bureau's priorities in getting the whole FBI, as a whole back to its, true mission of protecting the American people?
Well, I think Cash and Dan are doing an amazing job at bringing that accountability back. I know they've encouraged some senior executives to retire or find out what it's like to be a lower grade agent inside the FBI. And many of them, we just had 2 recent special agents in charge, encouraged to retire quickly, advised on a Tuesday, by Friday they were gone. Wow. Outside the FBI. So they're bringing that accountability. They're also looking at putting the individuals in place that they want, the ones that they vetted and they need and they think that are working to support and defend the Constitution, to get their integrity and the respect among the citizens. They got to go back to the way it was when I joined. There were a list of core values. None of them had to do with immutable characteristics. And I think getting rid of the DEI programs and weeding out the individuals that are strict adherents to that or supportive of hiring over characteristics instead of merit, I think that helps. I think looking the part, and I've been critical of Kash Patel. The people around him can tell you, I'm not a big fan of seeing the director not in a suit. The suit is the uniform of the FBI agent. And I think when you walk out and you look professional, you immediately command some type of respect, whether even before you've done anything. One of the phrases that we used during my time in law enforcement was when people showed up at the crime scene and they're looking for the person in charge, they're looking for the person in the suit.
That's so true.
I think being transparent is helping, getting the information out to the citizens. I think that you're going to see the Cash and Dan looking into retired agents like myself, not necessarily me, but retired agents like myself, and maybe bringing them back in with their expertise. We're just of a different generation. Sure. The majority of the FBI agents on board right now, even those in executive management, came on after 9/11. So just different. They have different life experiences. And they were hired under a different standard than I was. But I think getting back to the Constitution and earning that respect back from the people is the way to go. And I think they're well on their way to doing that.
You're that sounds very good. And you're also from Alabama. Great state.
Roll Tide, yes.
Yes. My best friend is from there. And the Bureau is reportedly reassigning, I find this very interesting, a large number of agents to the FBI's operations in Huntsville. What effect do you think that's going to have, from an efficiency standpoint? Are you a fan of it? Are you not? Because I kind of we all want to understand, actually, as a show and our listeners and viewers, what's the reason and purpose behind sort of that reorganization? Is it something that you often thought about, that you support, and what else structurally and or procedurally would you like to see changed, if any?
Well, I am a fan. Excuse me. I am a fan of moving some individuals out of FBI headquarters. I don't know if you've ever had an opportunity to be inside the J. Edgar Hoover building and venture beyond the first floor or the 8th floor where the FBI store is. It's not a pleasant place to work. It's dark. There are offices in there that you wouldn't think would be big enough for one person, one agent, and you'll have 5 agents sitting in there working back to back next to each other, and they're there all day long. I used to laugh. I worked at a headquarters offsite when I did my headquarters time for 2 years, and there were times that I would visit FBI headquarters, and I'm always happy-go-lucky. Hey, how you doing? It's a great day. You know, don't you just love this? And they looked like they just came from a funeral, and they hated me for being so nice about it. But I think that will be a good thing. Now, I want to dispel what some people think, that Cash is walking in and just kicking people out of headquarters and saying, go to the field or go down to Huntsville.
Yeah. Clear that up.
What's happening is those positions, funded staffing levels, FSLs, are being restructured so that they're put down there. Now, some people at headquarters are given the opportunity to make those moves, whether it's to go out to, to go out to one of the field offices or to go down to Huntsville. But a lot of it has to do with just shifting that funded staffing level out to that location. I think that's going to give a little breathing space to the people at FBI headquarters to make a little bit more room. It's going to make things a lot more pleasant as far as work. Huntsville is an amazing location. I was really good friends with the assistant director that was kind of helping set that thing up. He has since retired, and I still have friends in that area. I think that moving a lot of those resources there is going to be a good thing. Cost of living is a little better. I can tell you from my time living in Northern Virginia, it's not a cheap place to live. But I think that it's not necessary to have everything focused inside that Hoover building. I do think the director, the deputy director, and the regional directors, I think is what they're called now, should be in that DC area. You should be able to respond to your bosses over at DOJ. You should be able to respond to Congress. But a lot of what goes on inside FBI headquarters could be located just about anywhere. And we've got such high technology now that a lot of the meetings can happen through secure video teleconference. We call it CIVETs. I think it's going to be a good thing. I think there'll be some people that will be excited to join and move to the FBI. The people that are already in Huntsville that bought early with their housing prices being low are going to see a good return on that investment as people move into the area. I'm really happy at the direction it's going right now. I'm still, I'm always hesitant to give them an A+ rating. I don't think they've been there long enough for me to do that, but I think they're moving in the right direction. I'm humbled that they take the time to listen to individuals like myself and a small group of retired agents that we've kind of been working behind the scenes and bouncing ideas off of each other for about the past 5 years in a small text group. And our text group has actually come into contact with FBI headquarters through Cash's circle. And we've been able to provide some information about, hey, here's some things we would recommend to help restore that confidence from the American people. And they've been open to listening. I don't think you always have to go to Congress and just be, talk about negatively about the FBI. Right. I do think you mentioned Senator Grassley.
Yes.
Not been a fan of the FBI as far as I can remember, but
correct.
I think it's a good idea to bring him in and let him see what's going on, the decision-making process, to be transparent with him and get his feedback on it. If you get somebody like him on board with the things that Cash and Dan are doing right now inside the FBI, it's just a force multiplier. I think you're going to see things happen dramatically over time.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. That's great advice. Let's talk about also what should be some key, benchmarks for the Bureau. This is an important question, over the next 100 days and beyond, because you see where we started, where we're at now, but really important is what's the mission objective? Where should we go in the next 100?
Well, in the next 100, I think they need to continue what they're doing, revamping the hiring process, focusing more on the things that contribute to success as an agent. I do think that physical fitness is a portion of that. I think you do have to be physically fit. I do think you need to have a clean background. You don't necessarily have to have the skill sets like yourself as an attorney. I think life experience speaks more to that. Quick story. when I was recruited as a young Air Force officer special investigations agent to come on with the FBI, there was myself, a DEA agent, and then three other individuals that just graduated college with their accounting degrees. And you would think, oh, well, the FBI would use accountants. That would be amazing.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, the five of us went down to be interviewed. Now, at that time, I was 31 years old. Well, 34 years old. The other individual, the DEA guy, was 32 years old. The three individuals that went down there with us were in their mid-20s. So they had very little life experience. And a little behind the scenes, one of the last steps that you have is you go before a review board of senior agents, and they're going to ask you 15 questions. And those questions are going to be over the course of an hour. And those questions deal with how you make decisions. And you need life experience to make decisions. At that time, I was married with two kids,
Sure.
Had served overseas, had been an OSI agent. So I'd seen things, had done things, had people working for me, had worked for people. When I went into the room, I was in there for an hour. And I came back out. And when I came out, one of the accountants was out there waiting on me. He said, "You were in there a long time." I said, "Yeah, it's an hour, 15 questions, 4 minutes a question. Takes them a minute and a half to ask the question, 30 seconds to clarify the question. And then you basically got about 2 minutes to answer it." So yeah, it actually goes by pretty fast. And his phrase, and I still remember the voice today, "You answered all the questions?" I said, "Yeah." But the situations were, the questions were situation, action, result. Tell us about a difficult time you had in your life. What actions did you take? And what was the outcome of the actions that you took? And I'm sorry, if you're 23, 24 years old and you just got your master's degree, how much adversity have you faced in your life by that time? So it's very difficult to draw on that. I think you're going to see more of that maturity test as it comes into bringing the FBI agents in. There's going to be more focus on, I'd like to see more focus on the Constitution at every facet of the FBI, from firearms training to physical fitness, why it's important to be physically fit to help support and defend the Constitution. Everything that you do needs to revolve around that, because it is literally the one thing that you swear an oath to do, is to protect those citizens' rights.
Yeah, that's an important one that you take that needs to be adhered to religiously every day. And on a similar note, how does the FBI conduct, recruiting at this point? I mean, back in the day, they were going to different law schools and things like that as well. When I came in contact with them, because I had already, worked in the DA's office as an intern, I had tried felony cases with a sponsor like that, sponsored me with their bar number because I was finishing up law school. So that was exciting time. Everyone got excited about it. But what do they do now?
So now they're it's again a force multiplier. So they still do that same type of recruiting. You're gonna see them out at hiring shows and things like that. The other thing is getting out into the community and engaging with the citizens and recognizing people that might be a benefit to the FBI. The FBI, since that time that you and I were targeted for recruitment, they've come up with a Citizens Academy. So they bring not just leaders in the community, elected officials or business owners, but they bring average everyday individuals like friends, my friends and neighbors. They bring them in to go through this Citizens Academy. It's about a 6 or 7 week period. They meet once or twice a week in the evenings. They learn about every bit of the FBI programs. And they end that with going to the firearms range and getting to fire some weapons, which is always fun. But they end up making ambassadors for the FBI so that people can go out and say, "Hey, listen, I know you see a lot of negative things in the media. Let me tell you about my experience with the FBI."
Yeah.
But that is also the responsibility of the onboard agents to recognize individuals, and those onboard agents need to comport themselves in a professional manner and be able to respond to the citizens that are out there. When you show up, look the part. I'm frustrated, and I hope Cash and Dan put a stop to this. I'm tired of seeing Ring doorbell cameras with agents in untucked polo shirts, cargo pants, and hiking boots trying to convince someone that they're an FBI agent. It was a rarity. Yeah, it was a rarity that I wasn't in a suit. And I had people when I came into the FBI, they were still Hoover agents when I came in, and they all said the same thing. You better have a reason not to be in a suit. If you don't, you should be in a suit.
Yeah.
You're a professional. You get paid a lot. It's
respect.
It's setting that tone.
Yeah, I mean, for real, because otherwise you see someone, it's like, wait, I'm going to take this seriously. Right away, it suggests, authority, respect, the seriousness of the mission, and hey, I'm here to get some information. You need to cooperate. Stat. As we're wrapping up, we're seeing in places like New York, where the Democrat nominee for mayor says he doesn't want to cooperate. I mean, I can't with this, with ICE or the FBI or the feds on things like immigration enforcement. What's your reaction?
Well, I've got a good friend here. He's a radio show host. They've had me on this local radio station guest hosting and as a guest from time to time. His name's Clay Edwards. You should look him up. Clay has T-shirts made FAFO, and we know what FAFO means. So I think there needs to be some consequences to that. We need to see some elected officials. We've seen some of these representatives that go in and push and assault law enforcement officers. And when they do that, there needs to be consequences. You're not exempt from that. So if he wants to FA by impeding the federal officers from doing the job they're supposed to do to protect the citizens, to honor that constitutional oath, there's got to be consequences to it. And I hope that they
Yeah, lock them up. I mean, what are people doing? They don't get to decide. They don't get to violate the Constitution. I would have no tolerance for it. You got to set an example, right? They want to get press and show off. Okay.
Yeah, financially as well. Cut the funding off. Okay, your law enforcement agency doesn't want to assist, then you get no federal funding. You're not constitutionally obligated to give them that funding if they're not out there protecting and defending the Constitution. They, fund your own organization. The FBI is going to continue doing what it does. Homeland Security is going to do what it does. I think we've got the leaders in place. I hope that it stays that way. After 7 years in D.C., I became a little disenchanted with the political class that was up there. As I tell people, if you live in the Washington, D.C. area, it's going to make you more staunch, more strict in your conservative values, or you're going to turn the other way. There's really no middle ground up there. So it's an interesting area. I've had some people trying to encourage me to run for office down here.
Yeah.
It's not something
you don't want to do it. I think it'd be great, but
if God led me down that path, it is something I would consider, and we'll see. I'll consider entertaining it. I haven't made a decision yet.
Yeah, I think you'd be fantastic. But that's just one lady's humble opinion.
But thank you so much.
Yeah, keep us posted. You have any announcements to make like that? We'd love to obviously have you back on, the program. And I really do thank you, for your service to this country and for continuing to be engaged and involved and caring about the outcomes and caring about the Constitution to preserve and protect that, and being a friend, obviously, to the agency as well. You got to keep them all in line, and they need good ideas and people with veteran experience like you to be able to get in there and, really help restore, the agency and not just, from the inside, but from the outside, people looking in as well.
Well, I appreciate that. People can follow me on X at the nagging of my 3 very adult children. I finally got on there last August. I'm at the capital B, capital F conservative, BF conservative. One of the radio show hosts down here, based on my staunch defense of the Constitution, said, "Man, you're just blunt force." And I said, "Yeah, blunt force conservative." We just recently started a podcast, so going to have the producer of the Rob Maness show is going to be on with me this Saturday. I just had Blaine Holt on last Saturday, who is a contributor at Fox News and News Nation and Newsmax. So I'm excited. We're getting started with it right now. And if people want to check it out, I'll let them know when we start posting. We'll probably post sometime Saturday morning. We'll stream live.
Fantastic. Well, what a pleasure. Again, an honor to have you on the program. We look forward to having you on again. Chris Hinkle, thank you so very much.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Take care. Have a great weekend. While Democrats want to double down on delusion and destructive policies, President Trump is charting another path to protect safety, security, and usher in prosperity, dismantling enemy operations abroad, securing the border here at home, and taking on entrenched corruption everywhere in between. So I want to thank you so much for joining us for this important episode today. And please be sure to download the Rumble app, subscribe to my channel, turn on notifications, like and share, and tell all your friends so they know exactly where to find us. And please Kindly follow me across all platforms: X, Truth Social, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Stay tuned to Rumble for all the very latest breaking news coverage. And don't miss Don Jr.'s big show at 6 p.m. Eastern tonight. I hope you have a great rest of the day, and I'm looking forward to talking to you all again very